Good afternoon. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. We begin with a developing humanitarian crisis in North Africa, where severe flooding in northern Morocco has displaced tens of thousands of people. The scale of this disaster is immense, and the response is raising critical questions about climate resilience and international aid. I'm your host, and over the next 12 minutes, we'll dive deep into the situation on the ground, the political context, and what this means for the region and the world. We'll examine the immediate impact, the historical precedents, and the complex debate surrounding climate change, infrastructure, and global responsibility. This is a story of human suffering, governmental response, and the growing frequency of extreme weather events. Let's get into the details. First, the facts as we know them. According to reports from Africanews and other international agencies, torrential rains have battered the northern regions of Morocco over the past week. The provinces of Tangier, Tetuan Al Hoceima, and the Oriental region have been particularly hard hit. Rivers have burst their banks, sweeping away roads, bridges, and homes. The official count, as of yesterday, February 3rd, stands at over 50,000 people displaced from their homes. That's 50,000 individuals, men, women, and children, forced into temporary shelters, schools, and community centers. The Moroccan government has mobilized the military for rescue operations, deploying boats and helicopters to reach stranded communities. Initial reports suggest at least a dozen fatalities, though that number is feared to rise as communication is restored to isolated areas. The economic damage is already estimated to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars, with critical agricultural land submerged just before the planting season. To understand the magnitude, let's put that displacement figure into perspective. 50,000 people is a staggering number. It's roughly equivalent to the entire population of a mid-sized city like Thika here in Kenya being rendered homeless overnight. This isn't just a weather event, it's a mass displacement event. The visual coming from the region show entire villages cut off, with brown, churning water where streets once were. The Moroccan Red Crescent is on the front lines, but they are reportedly overwhelmed by the scale of the need. The question on everyone's mind is, why was this so severe? Northern Morocco is no stranger to rain, but meteorologists are calling this a 1-in-100-year event, with some areas receiving a month's worth of precipitation in less than 48 hours. This intensity points directly to the broader pattern of climate change, where warmer atmospheres hold more moisture, leading to these catastrophic deluges. Now, let's examine the response. The Moroccan government, led by King Mohammed VI, has declared a state of emergency in the affected provinces. The Interior Ministry is coordinating the relief effort. However, there is already a debate emerging about the speed and adequacy of the response. Some local officials and residents in hard-to-reach areas complain that help arrived too slowly, leaving them to fend for themselves for critical hours. On the other hand, the government points to the unprecedented nature of the flooding and the logistical nightmare of damaged infrastructure. This creates a classic crisis management dilemma. How do you balance the urgency of immediate rescue with the challenges of a degraded operational environment? Furthermore, this disaster strikes as Morocco is positioning itself as a regional leader in renewable energy and climate adaptation. Just last year, the country hosted a major African climate summit. This flood is a brutal test of those commitments and exposes the vulnerability that persists even in nations actively planning for a changing climate. This brings us to the international dimension. Where is the global community? United Nations has issued a statement of concern and says it is monitoring the situation. But as of this broadcast, there has been no official request for international assistance from the Moroccan government. This is significant. Morocco is a middle-income country with a capable military and civil defense force. It may be choosing to handle this domestically, a point of national pride and sovereignty. However, humanitarian organizations argue that pride shouldn't get in the way of saving lives. They point to the sheer scale, 50,000 displaced, and argue that no single nation, regardless of its resources, can easily manage a crisis of this size alone. The debate here is between national sovereignty and the principle of unconditional humanitarian solidarity. Should aid be deployed proactively, or must it wait for a formal invitation? This tension is playing out in real time. Let's contrast this with how other flood disasters have been handled globally. Think of the Pakistan floods of 2022, which displaced millions and triggered a massive international aid operation, or the recent catastrophic flooding in the southern United States. The response mechanisms, funding, and media attention often vary dramatically based on geography and geopolitics. Is North Africa, on the doorstep of Europe, receiving the attention it deserves? Some analysts argue there's a disparity. They note that while the World Government Summit is ongoing in Dubai, focusing on future challenges, a present-day catastrophe is unfolding a relatively short flight away. The summit's agenda includes climate resilience, yet the immediate needs of 50,000 displaced Moroccans highlight the gap between high-level talk and ground-level action. This isn't to criticize the summit, but to highlight the constant challenge of prioritizing acute crises within long-term strategic planning. Now, let's delve into the historical and environmental context. Northern Morocco's climate is Mediterranean, characterized by wet winters and dry summers. However, climate models have long predicted an increase in the intensity of rainfall events in this region, even as overall precipitation might decrease. What we are seeing is the manifestation of those predictions. The region's topography, with mountains running close to the coast, exacerbates the flooding. Water rushes down steep slopes with tremendous force, overwhelming drainage systems designed for a different climatic era. Furthermore, rapid urbanization and construction on floodplains have increased vulnerability. This is a story repeated worldwide. Climate change acts as a threat multiplier, exposing weaknesses in planning and infrastructure. The 50,000 displaced are not just victims of rain, they are victims of a complex interplay between a warming planet and human development choices. Financially, the toll will be enormous. Early damage assessments point to several key sectors. Agriculture, a mainstay of the northern economy, has been devastated. Fields are underwater and livestock has been lost. The tourism sector, crucial for cities like Tangier and Chefchaouen, faces massive disruption right before the spring season. Road and rail networks are severed, crippling supply chains. Conservative estimates put immediate reconstruction costs at over $300 million, but the true cost includes lost livelihoods, interrupted education, and long-term trauma. Who will pay for this? Will it be the Moroccan taxpayer, international lenders like the World Bank, or a mix? This disaster will likely force a difficult national conversation about budgeting for climate adaptation versus reacting to disasters. It's a choice between investing in resilient infrastructure upfront or paying a much higher price later. Politically, this event occurs against a complex backdrop. Domestically, the government's performance will be closely scrutinized. Effective disaster management can bolster public trust, while perceived failures can lead to significant unrest. King Mohammed VI's direct involvement in mobilizing the army is a clear signal of the seriousness with which the palace views the crisis. Internationally, Morocco has recently strengthened ties with several global powers. Its relationship with Spain is crucial, given the proximity across the Strait of Gibraltar. We have already seen Spanish rescue teams offering assistance. The United States, under President Donald Trump, has also cultivated closer relations with Rabat. The question is whether these diplomatic partnerships will translate into tangible, no-strings-attached humanitarian support. Or will aid become entangled in broader geopolitical negotiations? The principle of humanitarian aid is that it should be impartial and needs-based, but reality is often messier. Let's also consider the human stories behind the number 50,000. Each displaced person represents a life upended. Families have lost photo albums, heirlooms, and the security of their own four walls. Children are sleeping on classroom floors. Elderly people have been separated from necessary medications. The psychological impact of such a sudden, violent displacement is profound and will linger long after the waters recede. Local journalists report scenes of incredible solidarity, with neighbors helping neighbors, but also of desperation and grief. The challenge now is not just providing food and blankets, which is the immediate phase, but managing the medium-term crisis of displacement. How long will people be in shelters? When can they return home? And what will they return to? For many, their homes and livelihoods may be simply gone. This crisis also forces us to look at Africa's broader climate vulnerability. While Morocco is in North Africa, the continent as a whole contributes less than 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions, yet suffers disproportionately from climate impacts. From the droughts in the Horn of Africa to these floods in the Maghreb, the evidence is overwhelming. This raises urgent questions about climate justice and financing. Developed nations have pledged billions for adaptation and loss and damage funds for vulnerable countries. But the flow of that money has been slow and fraught with bureaucracy. The Morocco floods are a case study in why that funding is not just a moral obligation, but a practical necessity for global stability. Displacement on this scale can fuel migration, economic instability, and conflict if not properly managed. Looking ahead, what are the next steps? The immediate priority is, and must remain, saving lives and providing for basic human needs. Search and rescue must continue for anyone still stranded. The provision of clean water, sanitation, and medical care is critical to prevent a secondary public health disaster. Then comes the assessment and reconstruction phase. This is where the real test of resilience begins. Will Morocco rebuild exactly as before, or will it use this tragic opportunity to build back better? With climate-resilient infrastructure, restored natural floodplains, and smarter urban planning, the international engineering and environmental community will be watching closely. This could become a model for how middle-income countries navigate the era of climate disasters, or it could become a missed opportunity that sets the stage for a repeat catastrophe. In conclusion, the severe floods in northern Morocco, displacing over 50,000 people, are more than a natural disaster. They are a stark reminder of our new climate reality, a test of governance and international solidarity, and a human tragedy of immense scale. The number 50,000 is not just a statistic, it is a collective cry for help and a demand for action. It challenges leaders in Dubai at the World Government Summit to move from abstraction to action. It challenges the global community to match its climate rhetoric with concrete support. And it challenges all of us to recognize that, in an interconnected world, a crisis in North Africa reverberates everywhere. The response to this event will tell us a great deal about our preparedness for a future where such extremes may become commonplace. Our thoughts are with the people of Morocco. This is Kenya News Update Today. Subscribe to Kenya News Update Today for in-depth analysis on the stories that matter.